Badass business owners, welcome to another episode of the Local Small Business Coach Podcast, where each episode we work on getting you to $100,000 in take-home pay. So if you're all ready to boost your profits, increase your sales, improve your processes, and develop stronger teams so you can stop living job to job, then let's dive in. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. You're probably going to hear something a little different in my voice. Sometimes it comes across, sometimes it doesn't. But I have been sick. The last 2 weeks have been kicking my butt. What started off as the flu, which was really bad, and then now I've got this whole voice thing going on, probably post-nasal drip or whatever, and I might cut out here or there just to do some coughing and whatnot. But like most of you, when you get sick, you know what? When we're small business owners, we have to go to work. We still have to make money and stuff like that in most cases. In some cases, we've got the right processes and things in place so where we can take some time to rest. But for most of us, we can't rest for long periods of time. And I lucked out last week because it started to come on 2 weeks ago. And I taped 2 episodes just to be safe. And I was so glad I did because last week's episode, I was actually able to tape a couple weeks earlier, and you may not have noticed it, but it started at that time frame, and something was telling me to tape 2 just to be safe. But you know what? Here it is. We're rolling over. I don't have a third one in the can, as they say, so I'm going to jump into one today. I've debated back and forth if I was going to do this main one that I really, really want to do because I know how I sound. But on top of that, I don't know how long my voice is going to last. But I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and see if we can make this work. And because I'm very passionate about this, and one of the whole purposes of my podcast, of my website, of my mission is to help local business owners get to the point where they can earn $100,000 in profits, take home pay, money that they get to put in their pocket. Now, profits is kind of a slippery word because some people are going to go, well, Tammy, out of your profits, you've got this, and that. I agree. It's just a semantics thing that I always try to explain in different ways. You can call it take home pay. You can say the part that you get to put in your own pockets. You can call it whatever you want to call. But at the end of the day, I always mean after you have already paid your product costs, paid your expenses, paid your taxes, and you have retained earnings within the company. I want you to earn as much money as possible. And when I say taxes, I mean taxes on the business. Because like most people, you know, if I go out and I get a job for $100,000, I owe taxes on that. So I don't get too hung up on the taxes side of it because to me, that's just another part of what comes after you've already taken off those product costs, those expenses, and retained earnings, stuff you're going to keep in the business. So you can put it whatever you want. But for some of you, I know that's also a stretch because I know some of you guys are starting. The average small business owner is around $35,000 to $50,000 that they currently take home. You guys are in tax season right now. Some of you guys are doing that, and you've probably noticed. So when I say 100, that just really seems way out there. But really, the steps that I talk about and the things that I talk about, it's the same way that you're going from 35 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 100, 100 to 200. The way you scale your business just changes because really what we do is we build our business, then we grow our business, and then eventually we scale our business. And depending upon where you're at in that entire thing is going to determine where you're at. Now, before I jump in, you know I like to do my quote of the week. So here's my quote of the week. Happiness is not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Because first off, you know, the reason I want to make sure this quote is here is, look, it's not all about the money. I get that. You know what? You need to have way more to your life than money. You know, I'm not into that whole thing that money is bad because I don't think money is bad. Money is what makes the world go round. Money is what helps us make our families comfortable. Money is how we provide for our family. Money is how we can do all kinds of different things, whether it's sending our kids to college, help our elderly parents when they're ready to be taken care of, to grow our families, whatever the case may be, okay? Money is not a bad thing. And I do think that most people do the business they do because they really love and enjoy what they do. But at the same time, don't you deserve to make a good income doing what it is that you love to do? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, are you not making their lives better as well with your products or services? You bet your bottom dollar you are. You are doing that. And at the same time there's some people that, they don't ever want to make $100,000 in take home. And part of it is because they don't want to do what it takes to be able to get there. In some cases, they're already living a comfortable lifestyle, making the $50,000 that they're currently making today. There's no problem with that. They just love what it is that they do. And then there's some people that may be okay with the 50, but there's that creative juice inside of them, that thrill that they get from growing something, from making something bigger and better. And I know I always get trapped into that because I love creating stuff and I love watching it grow and I love watching it get better. So it's hard for me sometimes, for example, when I'm coaching someone and they absolutely are okay with status quo, because to me, I see the possibilities and I see where they can take their business and what they can accomplish. And I start getting really excited about where they can go with it. And I laugh because they're sitting there just staring at me like, okay. And then I know we're probably not a good fit. Or I know that I can just dial it down and just help them be the best that they can be in the little house that they want to live in. And that's figuratively, because I have this whole analogy of single-story homes, two-story homes, three-story homes, and how we grow and how we want to fill those homes. But that's okay too. It's just something in me where I'm driven to be able to want to create something bigger, badder, and better. It's just, some of you guys are wired the exact same way. I've talked to a lot of you guys, or I see your comments, and I know that you're driven the exact same way. And I do think that the majority of people that are out there listening to podcasts or seeking out more information, they too want to grow their business. And that's my assumption when I talk to you. So if that's not what you want to do, that's okay. You know what? There's room for everybody, and that's what makes everything go around. And for those that don't want to grow their business, that's okay too, because those of you that do, that just means that there's more of the pie out there for you to be able to go grab. Because I do believe that there's plenty of pie for everybody. How much of a slice you want is up to you, because that's what you ultimately go after. And if somebody wants a smaller slice, that just means that there's more pie for you. So we'll kind of keep it at that part. Now, one of the things that I really want to talk about, and I kind of alluded to on this, is a mindset thing. And I recently even been asking everybody, what's their biggest hang up on getting there? And I've asked people personally, I've asked people on some coaching calls, I've asked people in some Facebook groups and some different things. Now, one of the biggest things that we need, a hurdle that we have to get over right away, is the message that we tell ourselves between our ears. And part of it is what we call the upper limit problem. And there's two different things. One is the upper limit problem is where we don't see ourselves making more money than what it is that we make. And it may be that the most anybody in our family has ever made is $75,000. So in our mind, we have this thing where the minute we get close to that or start to exceed it, we automatically change and come back down. And I've talked about this in some past episodes. And there are people that do that, is just that they can't continue to grow because they automatically pull themselves back down, or they just can't see themselves making that kind of money because it just doesn't seem fathomable to them. They just don't get it. They can't see themselves doing that. And there's a reason why step 8 in my 8 steps to 100,000 is you've got to be able to visualize it. You have to be able to feel in your gut and see that you can make that type of money. Now, another way that this upper limit thing kind of gets in there is through excuses or reasons. We start to see all the reasons why we can't do it. For example, I'm in a small town, and there's a lot of folks that I talk to that are also in small towns across the area. And a lot of times what happens is when we're in a small town, we just think there's no way we can do this in our small town. You know what? There's just not enough people that live in the small town, or my town thinks differently, or, big towns have it better because people are willing to pay that kind of money, or bigger areas have more people. So therefore there's a bigger group of people that will want to use my services. I hear also a lot of times in small towns that, people don't want to spend any money. They are cheap. They want the cheapest thing possible. Okay, listen, all of that, while it may be partially true, is still just an excuse that we tell ourselves because there's something that we are fearing that we're going to have to do. And you got to keep in mind, in most cases, even a small town, unless your town is small, like say 15,000 people, In most cases, small towns could be 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people. That's still a lot of people. And depending upon what it is that you do, that's a lot of people to be able to use your products and services, especially when you figure out, let's just say that there's 40,000 people in your town. My town has 50,000, but let's just say yours has 35,000, 40,000 people. Now, ask yourself, how many people are using your services today? Now, in most cases, that might be, let's say on a high side, 200, 300 people are using your services. Out of 40,000 people, out of 35,000 people, there's still plenty of people out there that can use your products or services. We get that into our head. And if you start letting that bite into you and you believing that, then it's absolutely going to hurt you. You've got to get it out of there. You have to believe that there are more people in your town that are willing to use your business. Now, if your town's even smaller, or maybe you do believe it, then you know what? Then you need to look at the next closest town, or you need to look at how you can do part of your business locally and how much of your business can you do virally, that you can do remotely, that you can do for example, online piece of it, if you sell something in particular. Another thing that you might have to look at is, are you going to have to grow and maybe have a business that's in two different areas? Or maybe there's a day that you set aside that you go to the next nearest town and that whole entire day is spent in that town. You know, you just have to think differently than how it is that you think today. The biggest thing when it comes to this whole upper limit piece is you can't let all the reasons that you can't do it get in the way. Now, I'm not saying that these aren't valid, legit reasons. They are, but they're hurdles, they're roadblocks, they're things that you've got to figure out how to get around them more so than they are definite no's. And I think part of the challenge that we have is people take them more as no's and they're walls that you can't get over. And the reality is you can get over them. You either need a ladder, you need a tunnel, you need something, but more than likely they're just speed bumps, and they're things that you're telling yourself because others in your town have told you the same thing, or other people are telling you the same thing. Don't listen to other people telling you that you can't do it because there's just not enough people, for example, in your town. Another thing that's kind of tied to that is you just may not want to make the sacrifice. Now, before this hurts anybody's feelings, when I talk about making the sacrifice, everything that we do for a reason, right? We don't do things we don't want to do. We don't do things that are painful, things that are hurtful, things that just don't light our fire. But we do things that, it's worth the pain if we want something bad enough, or if we're willing to sacrifice something. And I'm not saying necessarily that you need to sacrifice your life or anything like that, but at the same time, is you need to ask yourself, are you willing to do whatever it is that it takes to be able to get it done? I'll use an example from my life. When I had my ice cream shop, one of the things that I learned really quickly was no matter how well I ran the store, no matter how much money I brought in, it wasn't going to ever make enough for me to be able to get to the amount of money that I wanted to make. So first off, especially when you're doing some crazy number, like if, for example, if you're doing $250,000 and you're only making a few $1,000s, you're not going to really get to that 100,000 anytime soon because you're thinking in your mind, oh, I got to do the math. That means I have to produce $1.5 million to be able to get to that $100,000. Great. But here's the thing. Is it doable? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. Is it going to be a pain in the keister? Yes. But for example, in my particular situation, when you have a small mom and pop kind of place, or, even a small franchise, the way that you make that type of money is you have to have multiple stores. So for example, when I had the Baskin, one of the things that, unless you had that ideal location in that big old town with tons of people and lots of folks coming through, you know what? Yeah, I was in a smaller town. So this goes back to what we were talking about. There's only so many people in the town. So many people are going to want to eat ice cream, right? So it's not saying that I couldn't get to 100,000, but in order for me to be able to do it, I was going to have to purchase other locations in other areas. And that was the sacrifice I was going to have to make. But here's the thing. It's not what I wanted. That was nowhere near what I wanted to do. I liked having my small town ice cream shop, but at the same time is my desire to get to $100,000 in take home was much greater than my desire to go out there and create multiple locations in multiple areas. That's just not what I wanted to do. I love my small town. I wanted to be able to create a business that I could still accomplish the same thing, but in a smaller town. And that was just a sacrifice I wasn't willing to give. So ask yourself, if you feel that the only way you're going to get to $100,000 is to grow beyond your borders, if you will, go into these other towns, then you have to ask yourself, is that a sacrifice you're willing to make in order for you to be able to get there? For some of you, you just don't want to hire employees. And you're like, you know what? I've had bad experiences. I don't ever want to be a boss. I want nothing to do with it. And you might find that, hey, the only way you're going to get to $100,000 is to hire people. Therefore, you're out, because the sacrifice to have people is much greater than you're wanting to be able to have that 100,000. So yes, there are roadblocks that are out there. Now, that doesn't mean that if, let's say, you don't want any employees and the only way that you're going to get to that $100,000 is to hire more employees. But how can you still go from where you are today to max that out? So let's just say you're at 50. Maybe you can't get to 100 without employees, but I can guarantee you probably can get to 60 or maybe even 70 using the same techniques that I'm always talking about in order to be able to get there. It's all about maximizing what it is that you can do today without necessarily having to sacrifice to do things that you don't want to do. And it's okay. I'm not going to be mad at somebody if we sit down and we can create this beautiful game plan that's going to help get them to 100,000 and they just don't want to make the sacrifices that take to be able to get there. I get it. You know what? That's not necessarily for everybody. There are some people that say, sign me up, let me go, wind them up, and they're off to the races. That's what they want to do to be able to get it. But I can tell you that almost anybody that's getting that type of business, they are sacrificing more to get there. You know, for example, in my real estate business, I've got a very good real estate business that I do, and I could make a hell of a lot more money than what I currently make today, but that's not my passion. That's not my joy. That's not where I want to go. So I have a whole entire game plan of what I can do to double my business today. But then when I sit there and I ask myself, what I have to sacrifice to be able to do that is to give up my dream of helping local small business owners grow their business. And I have to sacrifice giving up the business that I want to grow to be able to help folks like you. And everything comes at a cost. So is it possible for me to double my income in my real estate business? Absolutely. But at the cost to be able to do that, I don't think that's what I'm really wanting to do. So ask yourself the same thing, is when you tell yourself all those excuses and all those reasons why you can't get to $100,000 in take home, why you can't grow your business, is it because there's something you don't want to sacrifice? There's something you don't want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe sacrifice sounds like such a tough word on it. It's just more of, you don't want to give up one thing for another. And I totally get it. But you still can be able to maximize what it is that you can do within the hours and the time and the parameters that you have. You still can do it. The other thing that I hear people all the time talk about is time. Tammy, I don't want to have to work more time, or I don't have the resources to be able to do it. Listen, all of that is roadblocks, because I'll guarantee you when you first started your business, you didn't have, you might have had time because you had a bunch of time, but if you started it part-time, you didn't have enough time to be able to do it. I don't have enough time to do my secondary business. And when we grow, there's only so many hours. Many of you are already working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And you're like, Tammy, I can't double my business and work more hours. You're right. It comes down to other things that we talk about all the time. Working smarter, not harder. It's about processes. It's about our systems that we have in place. It's about utilizing other people's time instead of just our own. There's other things that we're doing. When it comes to the resources I hear all the time too is about money. Well, I just don't have the money. You don't understand. If I don't have the money to be able to go out and buy another truck or to buy more product costs, I can't grow my business. No, those are just roadblocks. There's always ways to figure everything out. It just goes back once again, what are you willing to sacrifice to be able to get it? And I can sit here with all kinds of examples and everything else, but everybody's situation is a little bit different. Sometimes it's an easy fix. Sometimes it's a more difficult fix. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to be able to achieve it. You know what? We're a society that we want it now, want it now, want it now. And if we can't figure out a solution to get it tomorrow, we don't want to do it. You know, I've sat down with people and we've talked about how they can grow their business and they don't have the money. So we're like, okay, you're going to have to set aside a certain amount of money every month and then you're going to be able to do it. When they're like, well, I don't want to wait 6 months to be able to get it. Okay, then you obviously don't want it bad enough because you're not willing to make that sacrifice. Oh, wow, we came back to that world again, right? So, at the end of the day, what's funny is 6 months from now, they're moaning and groaning that they still don't have something. And it's like, well, if you would have started this 6 months ago, guess what? You'd have that truck right now, or you'd have that additional money for that expansion thing that you want to do, or whatever the case may be. And by the way, have you ever talked to somebody that has a very high performing business in what it is that you do? You ever talk to a business owner that has a team of people, or they have a very successful business? I will guarantee you, they will tell you in most cases, not all, but in most cases, they work less hours today than what they did when they were a solo operation. When they were working for themselves, they were working 65, 70, maybe 80 hours a week. And now that they've got everything in place and they're making that 100,000, they're off golfing, they're off playing, they're taking time off with their family. They have more time today than they did in the past. And the reason is they've built the right systems in place. They put the right processes in place. They have the right team members in place. Whatever the case may be, they put those things in place and they're able to find that balance of how to get more done in less time. And that's a lot of people. Is it everybody? No. But I'll guarantee you it's more than half have figured out how to get more time back once they put all that stuff in place. And when you're a well-oiled machine and everything's working right, guess what? You gain back time. And you also are saving a lot of money, which is allowing you to be able to create that retained earnings so that you can grow your business and do more things. It doesn't happen overnight. It comes down to putting a plan in place and being able to put that sucker together. And when you have a plan and you have things in place, the second part that goes with that is you also, when you talk to these people, they know their numbers. And you hear me talk about numbers. You've got to know your numbers. And I can't tell you how many people want to make more money and grow their business, but yet they don't have a basic grasp on their money. They don't know where their money's going today. They can't tell you how much money they've made this month. They can't tell you what their gross margin is. They can't tell you how much, if they're on track. You know what? There's people that I talk to all the time, and even in our Facebook group, the Badass Business Owners, I always try to put things in there going, are you on track for your business for the month? Are you ahead? Are you behind? Do you need to adjust your business for the year? The reason I say that is you've got to do that every single month. You need to be adjusting and tweaking. You need to know where you're going. Instead of waking up in September and realizing that you're nowhere on track and you think, oh, well, I might as well throw my hands up because this year is a waste. BS. You always have time to be able to make more money in whatever time. And every month it gives you a course correction of being able to look back and tweak as needed. But you've got to know what your target is. You got to know what you're aiming for. You got to know what you're shooting for. And for most of you, if I sit here and I say, what's keeping you from getting to that $100,000 or whatever number you have in your head, it might not be 100. Like I said, it might be 75. It might be 200. I don't know. Whatever your number is, if I was to ask you how much you need to be doing in sales, could you answer that basic question first? Do you even know what it is you need to do in sales? And for most people, the answer is no. They think, well, I make 50 today and I do 200,000. So I'm going to assume I need to do 400,000 to make the same 100. Well, that may be the case, but in a lot of cases it's not, because not your expenses. Some expenses don't change depending upon how much you make. Some expenses might go up. You might have to hire some people, in which case your payroll would go up. So then it's about how much you need each of those people to make. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios that go along with what it is that you need to make to be able to get to that target. And you've got to sit down and you've got to put pen to paper and you've got to try to figure this number out. And that's one of the things that I love doing with folks is let's play with these numbers. Let's figure out what type of decisions that you need to make. What are those calculated decisions? For example, there's people that say, well, if I just had one more truck, I would be able to make that money. Okay, because if I had another truck, I would be able to double my business. Okay, well, let's theoretically say from a revenue standpoint, you could double your business because now you can do the exact same thing twice. But you forget that you also just picked up the expense of that truck, right? And you just picked up the expense of who's going to drive that truck, how much that truck is going to cost you a month if you put it on payments of any type, the gas that goes in that truck, and everything else. You've got to make sure that you focus on all of that. So you've got to work that into it. Maybe you're going to make a little bit less. But if you did retained earnings and you were able to purchase that truck for cash, now you're able to double it. And you know what? Now your sales are even that much better. And it could be a piece of equipment. It could be all kinds of stuff. But you really have to look at each one of those pieces individually to figure out how much of an impact that they're actually going to have. You need to know those numbers and what's going. You have to have a plan on how you're going to get there. Let's talk about something that I'm starting to talk about, and that is about playing the movie forward and saying, okay, let's just say that a year from now, you want to be making a certain amount of money. So I want you to think about what it is that you make today or what you just made, And then I want you to say, okay, a year from now, I want to be taking home X. What is your number? Do you know your number? I'm going to use the 100K just because that's what we're talking about. Let's say that I know I want to make $100,000 a year from now. So you want to play that. What does your business look like when you're making 100? What does the business look like? How is it running? What kind of, what kind of business are you doing? Are you focused on one type of business? Did you tweak your business at all? Did you focus on one aspect of your business because you know that you can make more money if you focus on that particular area instead of trying to be everything to everyone? For example, if you're a plumber and you said, you know what, I'm going to go after and become known as the water heater install person because I know I can do fewer installs, fewer customers, but I can make more money at the end of the day. And what does that look like? Does it go from 30% of my business to 75% of my business? What does your business look like? If you're a handyman, instead of you doing everything under the sun, are you going to focus on certain higher end jobs that you're going to focus on versus the littler ones? Or whatever the case may be, pick your job, pick your business, play that movie forward a year from now. If you were making the type of money that you want to make, what would it look like? Picture that and let that settle in your head a little bit about what your business looks like. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go forward again and say, okay, what do I need to put in place today to be able to get there? In order to make that movie a reality, when I watch the movie, what am I doing through the course of the movie? During that 2-hour movie, there's always something occurring, right? When we watch a movie, we start someplace and we end somewhere else. And then we have the 2 hours of the movie where all this action takes place. So think of your business as like an action movie. And there's so many different things that have to happen. There might have to be some car chases, some action sequences, and some crashes, and some getting the resources to be able to take care of something, whatever the case may be. There's always all this action that occurs from the beginning of a movie to the end of the movie. Well, you know the beginning of the movie because you're living it right now today. You just visualize the end of the movie because you just forwarded a year from now of what you want your business to look like. So now what I want you to do is I want you to focus on what is all the action that needs to take place during the movie to be able to get you to the end of the movie and have the results that you saw. Hopefully that is making some sense to you because I think that's what happens is we fail to figure out the middle of the movie. We know where we're starting. We know where we want to go. But what happens is we don't do anything. We don't take any action. We don't let anything occur. We just have this boring movie that is going on that's like, oh my gosh, I'm falling asleep. They're sleeping in the aisles. And then when you wake up, it wasn't satisfying. The movie didn't go anywhere. Nothing changed. The characters stayed the same. The business was exactly the same. And we feel like we wasted our $12 to go see this movie. And that's what you're probably living all the time because you're not making any changes. You're not putting any action into the movie, any changes into the movie. So here's the thing. I want you guys, that's the biggest thing I want you to do. If you do nothing else with any of the advice that I'm giving you today on today's show, is I want you to do this. I want you to identify where you are today at the beginning of the movie, and I want you to identify where you want to be a year from now. And maybe it's 2 years from now you want to make that kind of money. Doesn't matter. I want you to fast forward through your movie and play it through. And what does your business need to look like in order for you to be able to make that money? Whether you're in a small town, a big town, lots of people, little people, you need more resources, whatever the case may be, whatever the reason is, what needs to happen in the middle of your movie in order for you to be able to get there? And then ask yourself, are you willing to take those steps needed to be able to get there? Are you willing to make those sacrifices to be able to get there? Is there something you need to change within your business to be able to get there? Maybe you need to change your business altogether. Maybe you need to say, okay, I need to stop doing this and I need to start doing this. Or maybe I need to change what I'm focusing on. Maybe, like I did, you know what? There's no shame in changing your business. When I changed from my ice cream shop into real estate, it was because I needed immediate action when it came to the bottom line, what I was able to put in my pocket. And I was able to make that change pretty quickly once I made the decision to do that. It didn't mean that I was failing. It didn't mean that I didn't love what I was doing. It just meant that my goals and where I wanted my movie to end up, I wasn't going to be able to get there the way that I was going to have to get there if I stayed in the situation that I was in. Ask yourself the same thing. What needs to change? And if you don't want to make those changes, that's fine. Then find somewhere that's better than where you are today. If you don't want to do everything that it's going to take for you to get to $100,000, then to ask yourself, what do I need to take to go from 50 to 60 or to 65 or whatever the case to push yourself? All of us can make more money, whether it's top line revenue, money we put in our pockets. We can grow our business, keep it in the business, donate it. You know what? Give to your local church, give to your food bank, whatever reason you want to grow your money by and for. It's all good. Maybe you got to put kids through college. Maybe you have a wedding coming up. Maybe you want to buy a house. There's so many local business owners out there who want to buy a house and don't. They're renting today, but they can totally buy a house, but they've got to put things in place in order to be able to do that. You deserve that dream just like anybody else does. So whatever your movie looks like a year from now, 2 years from now, put it in place. Figure out how you're going to get there. I know I'm rattling, and I know I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about it for a reason. I just think that we put so many roadblocks in our own way about why we can't do it. And you know what? Maybe you can't get to $100,000 the way that you want to get to, but I can guarantee you there's some number between where you're at today and somewhere between there and $100,000. Whatever that may look like. I guess that's the biggest thing that I want to make sure that you walk away with is, yes, the 100 is just a number that I'm sticking out there. Your number could be anything you want it to be, but I can guarantee you that you can do better than where you are today. And that doesn't take anything away from what you've built today and where you are. I am so proud of so many of you. When I hear your business and what you've built, I'm like a proud mom. And it sounds weird because I really don't know you, but I hear your story and it just gets me all like so excited to see what it is that you built. All I'm saying is you can continue to build and grow that business, and you can continue and grow that business towards that next level. And if that next level is 100, great. If that next level is 75, great. If that next level is 200, 250, great. Go for it. Scale that sucker. Do what it is that you need to do. But my whole thing is there is some number that you can achieve that's greater than where you are today. And for a lot of you, you're making less than 50. You're making $30,000, $25,000, and you're doing a wonderful job supporting your family. But I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, and I know you're working your butt off. I just want you to have more. I want you so fired up because you know that you can have more. And I believe in you. And I know that you are going to achieve some amazing, awesome things. That's why you listen to this podcast. That's why you listen to other podcasts. That's why you are constantly trying to fill yourself up with more business knowledge to become better than what it is that you are doing today. Because you have a vision for your business and you have a vision of how that business is going to impact you and your family. And I just want to be there for the ride. I want to help you do it. I think every single one of you guys could absolutely achieve that $100,000, if not more. But whatever your number is, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. But I'm telling you, a big chunk of it for many, many people is you've got to believe it. You've got to listen to that story you're telling yourself. You've got to believe it between your ears. You've got to listen to yourself when you're making excuses as to why you cannot do something. Okay? Why you cannot. You know what? It isn't the size of your town. It isn't the fact that you don't have enough time. It isn't that you don't have enough resources. Those are just obstacles. Those are things that get in the way of every single successful business. You cannot show me a single successful business that does not struggle with those things at all times. Whether it's a huge Fortune 500 company that started from nothing. Trust me, when I started with Home Depot, guess what? The whole thing, it's not a myth. The whole thing that they did, they needed to look bigger than what they were because it was all about those big old aisles. They put empty boxes because they didn't have the inventory. They just did not, but they wanted to have an illusion that they did. So guess what? When the people went into those early Home Depot stores, the overheads were full of empty boxes, giving the impression that they had more inventory than they did. They went out and gave dollar bills out to people just to get them to come into the store because they didn't have the customers in order to be able to grow that business. So they bribed people just to come in and roam the aisles. They did all kinds of stuff to be able to do it. And look at them today. They're one of the largest, fastest growing, biggest behemoth companies that are out there today. They struggled with the exact same things that you did. You know what? You can look at all kinds of businesses that are out there doing what it is that you do. Go find the top person, the top people that do the business that you do today, and they started off small and they grew. You know what? There's a show on TV called Everyday Millionaires. They were like business people, entrepreneurs, where they take people like, like the got junk people. You know what? There are people that worked out the 2 men in a truck to movers. They started off as a little tiny thing. Almost every person in your business has become successful. The most successful landscaper, the most successful window cleaner, the most successful handyman, the most successful anything that was out there started off in your shoes. And trust me, they had all kinds of roadblocks just like you did. Okay. And they found ways around them. So if you want it, it's out there. You can totally do it. And if you don't want something big and huge like that, that's okay. But you've got to want something more and better than what it is that you're at today. Whether it's to help other people or to help yourself, it doesn't really matter. You can do this. You've got this. And I know I'm rattling, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. But here's the thing. If you really enjoy, this motivation and you want to be able to continue to find ways to grow your business and get to that $100,000, here's a couple things. One is you definitely want to make sure that you're subscribing to the podcast. If this is the first time that you've ever heard this podcast, one, I don't always sound like this. I'm motivated, yes, but this voice, no. But make sure you go ahead and subscribe. You know what? If you haven't already rated and reviewed the podcast, do it so other people know they need to be listening to it. But for you personally, don't forget, I do have that 8 steps. It's not perfect, but it's enough to get you going. I have the ebook, the free ebook, 8 steps to getting to 100,000. You can get it over on the website, localsmallbusinesscoach.com/8 steps. I'll make sure it's also in the show notes, localsmallbusinesscoach.com. There's all kinds of links there. You can hit /8 steps. My goal is to put together a course that I can go into detail that's going to help everybody. That's one of my missions. I know I keep talking about it. I just have to carve out the time to be able to do it. I've been working on a few other things. You know what? But we're going to walk through and we're going to talk about the sales. We're going to talk about how to figure out your number. What do you need to be doing in sales to be able to create that kind of profits? We're going to talk about diving into your processes. We're going to talk about all the different things that you need to constantly be working on in order to be able to get to your goal. I'm here for you. Join our Facebook group, Badass Local Business Owners. We talk about stuff. Ask questions that have to do with that. I love answering those questions. I love watching other people jump in and give their 2 cents and share their stories. It's all fun. There's all kinds of things. It's a support network to be able to help you guys out. So I'm just rattling again. So I know it's time to go. I keep saying that. I just get fired up because I want you guys all to hit your profit goals. I want all of you guys to experience the amazing business that you set out to build, that you constantly dream and want to be able to do more of. I'm here for you. I'm on your side, and I'm dedicating that I'm not going to give up on this because I really do love and enjoy this. I don't get paid to do this. You know what? Yeah, I get paid through some of the coaching stuff I do, and some of the courses I'm building, but that's minor. I really don't make that much on that. Trust me. I do this podcast every week out of a passion that I have for you guys. I do this for you because I really believe that I have a calling that I'm supposed to help you. So I get up and I do this just because I want to help you guys, and I will continue to do that. And with that, I know that I need to stop talking because I am not going to be able to talk for the rest of the day. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this puppy up, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, are you sick and tired of working so many hours and still not being able to grow your business? Are you ready to start earning the income you deserve for the work you are doing? Do you have so many ideas and you just don't know where to start? Well, maybe you need a business coach. And guess what? I just happen to know one. Yeah, me. We can do a one-time strategy session, or we can set up a 6-week coaching plan. If you would like to learn more about this, just click on the link in the show notes or go to localsmallbusinesscoach.com/work-with-me. You can take a quick survey so I can learn a little bit more about your business, and then we can set up your free consultation call. Remember, I'm here to help. You do not have to do this alone.